Good morning. Good Monday morning. How are you guys today? Well, we're back on another Monday and another segment of Shin Kicking Mondays. And if this is your first time here, hello, I am your host, Berni Xiong. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And if you have been a participant of our Shin Kicking Mondays, welcome back. So, how this typically works is there's a comment box right in front of you. Go ahead and write in there. Tell us who you are, where you're from, where are you joining us from. I'm here in the nice, crisp fall state of Minnesota, here in the U.S. If you're joining from outside of the U.S., tell us what city, country you're from. And if you're joining us from the U.S., tell us what city, state you're from. Anyway, I'm enjoying a nice warm tea this morning. I love that fall is here. I love this weather. It's nice snuggle up weather. Snuggle up to my doggies. All right. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Again, don't be shy. Say hello in the comment box. And anytime you have questions or comments or just want to interact, go ahead and use your comment box and I will see what you're saying and I'll try my best to respond here through the live recording. And if you're joining us on replay, still feel free to comment or like or thumbs up and leave emojis because I always see that stuff too after the recorded episode is done and I come back and I look at the replay to see if I've missed anybody or anything. So with that, let's get going. So again, if you're new here, how Shin Kicking Mondays works, it's a free coaching series that I started quite a few years ago. I went on hiatus for a little bit here um, for self-care. And I returned recently because I saw a need in the world to help support people who were perhaps going through a difficult time or making a transition in career or life. And, uncertain times like that, and times where things can feel overwhelming and you just completely feel enveloped in fear and uncertainty can really push us off our game and can really throw us off track. And, I realized that instead of what was easy to do, which was to hide in my cave and do stuff behind the scenes and produce and create and support from, within the shadows, which was great that I had the ability to do that. Like I said, I was able to take care of myself and take care of personal matters and really take care of my health and my family. But at the same token, there were people in the world who I've worked with before and whom have enjoyed some of the insights and the support I've given over the years. And so um, there was definitely this pull to return back to the public world and to see you guys again, see you face to face, talk to you voice to voice, and just really be a part of this um, revolution, if you will, of people who really want to do good in the world, who want to make an impact, who want to stop being noise, and who just need a little bit of that support and that nudge to get there. So, I feel equipped to do that some days. Some days I don't always feel up to it, but I know that I have the tools and I have the resources and the experience to be that person to someone just who's just a little bit further ahead of some of you, and maybe I'm behind some of you in some ways, but we're here to pull together and we're here to be a village of people who want to help and support and love each other, love up on each other and what we're doing, and support each other's crafts and talents and projects. So, anyway, here I am. The whole point of Shin Kicking Mondays is to be that support for you guys. So, thank you for joining and thank you for being here today. So, I'll go ahead and start with our group intention. The intention is going to be channeled, so I don't always know what's going to come through, but I'm going to allow whatever messages from the divine team to come through and tell us what we need to know today to really help us shape not only our Monday, but the rest of our week and support us on this mission, right? And we each have our own individual missions, but I think the greater collective mission for us brave bears and us people who want to do good work in the world and make an impact is what do we need to hear to help support us mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually as we move forward each day and do this difficult but good work, okay? So with that, I'm going to ask us to get comfortable and ground ourselves, center ourselves, and that allows us to focus on the intention that we want to set as well as the messages that want to come through. So if you're here live, go ahead and join me. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to get comfortable in my chair and make sure that my feet are planted on the ground. Feet are touching the ground. Roll your shoulders if you need to. If you have any inner chatter in your mind, go ahead and observe those thoughts, acknowledge them quickly, and then let them go. Let them go as quickly as they're coming. If you have a to-do list that you're worried about today, let it rise up to the surface. Acknowledge it and then just let it go. We don't need it right now as we're getting ready for today's intention and today's group channeling. Any thoughts, fears, worries, let it rise to the surface and then just release it. Quiet your mind, quiet your heart, quiet and relax your body so that you can receive the messages that want to come through today to you. Make sure we're breathing. Let's take a couple of deep breaths and then whenever you're ready, you can get out of it. Just a truncated version of a quick little meditative exercise to allow ourselves to be ready for the channeling that wants to come through today. Just a couple more breaths. Whenever you're ready, feel free to open your eyes and return back to the screen. All right, and let us see what is coming through today. And good morning, Rini. Joining us from Milwaukee. Thank you for being here. Good to see you. All right, so the phrase that I'm hearing is, it's okay, you're okay. It's okay, you're okay. Let's break that down a little bit, okay? It's okay. Whatever you're worried about, whatever you're thinking, whatever troubles you, it's okay to worry about it. However you're feeling right now, even if it is not completely optimistic, a little doubtful, it's okay to feel that way. Acknowledge that feeling. It's valid. Fear is not negative. Fear is not a bad thing. Fear is a signal. Fear is an indication. Fear is an indicator. Fear is an alert signal. Fear is a warning sign. Fear is a way for us to know that there could be danger and that we must take precaution. Fear is a good signal if we use it wisely. Okay? It's okay to have fear as long as we are being productive with the way we choose to respond to the fear. So if we see fear as a tool to help us, fear as a guide to fuel our positive response, then we can use fear to help us and to not hinder our actions. We can use fear to support us, to provide us information, instead of seeing it as a disempowering, absolute condition or situation. Fear can move us into action instead of surrendering to that situation that potentially could be changed if we have enough information and we have the ability to control and change the situation. Okay, that was very wordy right there, but I get it. I totally get it. If we've been worrying about a thing, if we've been waiting for results on something, if there's something that we're dreading finding out about, know that the fear of not wanting to see it, not wanting to know it, not wanting to confront it is only going to put us in a place of disempowerment and even more, for the lack of a better term, fear, more stress, more concern. We're worried about the what ifs instead of confronting the thing and figuring out what is real and what the actual situation is, right? The reality of the situation, the actual thing that's happening, the actual thing we're finding out. So we can't hide and we can't run from it. We must confront it. We must look at it in the face so that we can then take that information and find a way to, if we can control it, find a way to resolve or to solve or to fix or to help improve the situation. Okay? So it's okay to be afraid, but we must use that fear in a productive manner. We must use that fear and do something positive with it. We must use that fear as a way, as a gauge, as a tool, as a guide to help us and not to hinder us. Okay, so fear, if used wisely, can actually really help support us. Okay, so that's the first part of the intuitive group channeling today, which, if you're just joining us now, I channeled the phrase, "It's okay, you're okay." And if you are just joining us now, say hello, tell us your name and where you're joining us from in the world. So the "you're okay" part is a couple of ways I'm getting. I'm getting that it is you're okay, as in you're fine. If you're here right now, you're breathing, you're functioning, um, nothing serious is happening to you, you're okay. You know, we've got sometimes this false belief that there's this, we've got this, you know, it's like the flight or fight response where we're in danger and we feel like we're about to die. We feel like we are nearing death. And in many cases, that could be the reality for some, but in many of our cases, we know that that is just a initial warning that tells us that we need to do something about it. But when we actually take a look at the big picture and we realize how safe we are and how that situation is really not as harmful as we initially perceive it, we actually really are more okay than we think we are. So if we worry that something really horrible is going to happen, but in all reality, it's just something a little bad, it's a little bump in the road, but it's not that dire, right? It's not life or death. Then we need to not assign it a life or death, that energy. We can't put that kind of life or death energy into it. Because again, it goes back to the disempowerment piece. If we're fearful and we feel disempowered, we're never going to get up out of our bed. We're never going to get out of our room. We're never going to get out of our house. And so we must be mindful about choosing when to really take that precaution, because something is a life or death situation, something is really that dire, versus when we're making a big deal out of something so small or creating drama out of something that doesn't really need to be that dramatic. Okay, so the "you're okay" part of the phrase is you're okay. all in all, essentially, you are fine. And so let's not make this bigger than it needs to be. And if it is big, then act on it. Take the action that's necessary for that big problem or issue or situation. But if it really isn't that big, let's not make, a mountain out of a molehill. Okay? So it's okay. You're okay. Is about understanding that fear is okay. Fear is a tool, fear is a gauge. Use it wisely, use it productively, and know that you're okay. But if you're not okay, if you really are not okay, then listen to your intuition, listen to your gut, and take precautions, the necessary precautions to handle the severity of that situation. Okay? All right, so to wrap up the group intention and channeling this week, it's okay. You're okay. All right. All right. So now that we've got that established for the week, and now that we have a clearer mind and we feel centered and focused and ready to tackle Monday and ready to tackle the rest of the week, let's really get into what's eating you guys up. What is going on in your world? What kind of clarity are you looking for right now? What kind of guidance do you need? Perhaps you don't necessarily have a question, but maybe there is something that has been bothering you, and maybe you just want kind of a general outlook um, to take a look at that situation more closely. Maybe you want an intention set for you for the week because you're not sure what to focus on, but you do need some kind of guidance or assistance. So, with that being said, go ahead and use the comment box. Again, if you're just joining us now, go ahead and say hi and tell us where you're joining from in the comment box. And then now we have opened the floor for questions. So if there is something that you need guidance or clarity on, go ahead and write your question in the comment box. And if you're new here, I get my message a few different ways. Sometimes it's just a matter of you asking me a question, and I allow myself to be the channel to your divine team. It's like our souls are having conversations with each other, and I'm able to provide you some guidance. And it's pretty much me reading the energy around you, reading the energy around your situation, and really listening to what's going on energetically around you. And then some other ways that I also get my messages or my divine guidance also comes through the form of I could do past life readings to see. Sometimes what happens is images or a picture will play in my mind, and I might not know who it's necessarily for. So if I do channel something that feels like it wants to come through, I might just start describing it. And if you're here participating live, or even if you're replaying this, you can, decipher for yourself. Is that a message that makes sense to you? Is it something for you or somebody you know? And then lastly, very, very new as well, is channeling spirits that have crossed, loved ones who have passed. And this happens rarely, but sometimes if I do get the nudge or if I do hear something, I will also share that message as well. So, with that, there are a lot of different ways I connect. There are a lot of different ways that I can help and support. So, Spirit and my divine team will really guide me today and tell me where I need to go and what I need to do. But with that, let me go ahead and stop yapping for a little bit here and take a look at the comment box to see if there are any questions. Okay. Awesome. Okay, Rini. Rini, looks like you're open. You're open to a few couple of things. Okay, so an intention or even a past life. All right. So I'm just going to kind of pause for a bit and let things come through as I hear it, see it, feel it, or sense it. And however it wants to come through, it will. So I'll make sure to do that. All right. Sometimes I write things down if I'm hearing things or I need more focus. Okay. Rini, thank you for being brave. So far, I'm getting the words clean and clutter. Clean, clutter. Let me break this down, okay? And I'll be kind. I know that these public readings sometimes might feel a little personal or private, so I won't divulge too much if I think it's not appropriate. Clean and cut clutter. You know, what I'm hearing in the energy around you, and this could most likely be around kind of the intention or maybe what you need to know right now. I'm getting this sense of cleaning and cleaning and clutter. So when you are, and this is the case for all of us really, when you are really focused on, let's say, a project or trying to get a task done, sometimes you can be so caught up in it and really the perfection around finishing it and how you're finishing it and how well you're performing and doing the best you can and trying to be excellent at what you do and really putting your heart and soul to into the thing. Sometimes what can happen is if you're working really hard behind the scenes on this thing and really focused on getting it done, and not just getting it done for the sake of getting it done, but getting it done the way you would want it to get it done, the way you show up. You have a really hard work ethic and you want to be excellent. And I'm hearing the perfectionist word again, the perfection in you, not saying not done yet, not done yet, got to keep doing it. So what can happen when you're working on that project is you can neglect parts of your life that also need to stay organized and also need to stay intact so that you can um, get done what you need to every day. So for example, if you're working on a project and you're behind the computer, for instance, maybe 10, 13 hours straight, maybe sometimes you take breaks, maybe sometimes you'll remember to eat, maybe you won't. Sometimes you'll forget to clean, or sometimes you'll forget to keep yourself organized, and all of a sudden, dishes have piled up, or your laundry has piled up, or your living room is getting dusty. And this is really a sign of, not that you are a dirty or messy person, but this is a sign of how focused you can get to the point where sometimes you'll neglect your own well being and your own self care ritual if you have a ritual. So let's say, for example, your ritual is to wake up every morning, brush your teeth, wash your face, do your skincare regimen, kind of that automatic morning ritual that we tend to do to get ourselves ready and pampered for the day. Sometimes, if you're like, oh, got to get up and finish this project, if you're working so intently on something, sometimes you'll even forget to do parts of that morning regimen because you just want to get right into the work. You want to get right into the perfection of getting it done. And so I think the warning for you from your divine team is if we're not cleaning out ourselves emotionally, if we're not staying in balance uh, by keeping with our daily self-care routine, and we neglect ourselves in the process of that, we can create more stress, we can create more dis-ease, we can create more personal and physical and health issues for us because we're so intent on finishing that project and doing that thing outside of us for something else or for somebody else, that what often gets left behind is what we need to do for ourselves. Okay, so that's where the cleaning part comes in. And I think the clutter piece is in relation to that, because then as we forget to clean, do the emotional cleansing on a daily basis, then sometimes we let the junk, the stuff, build up, right? And then when it builds up, all the junk builds up and piles up. What ends up happening is we create clutter. And when we create clutter physically in our domain, right, then we can also create clutter emotionally, mentally, and spiritually within our energetic body as well. So the key really is, even though you are intent on finishing a project and doing well and being a perfectionist at work, you must also remember to be that disciplined and that have that much conviction in the way you care for yourself and the way you go about your daily routine, your self-care ritual. Let's not forget our self-care ritual. And what I always love about giving these messages is because the message almost always is for me too, the person who's channeling, right? The person who's reading, because I literally just went through this very thing we speak of these past 2 weeks. Um, I overcommitted myself to projects and deadlines. And as a result, I wasn't as clean. My home office cluttered up. My dishes weren't done as quickly as I typically do them because I typically try to get them all done right after a meal or within a few hours of a meal, but clear by the end of the night. And I have noticed too that my cleaning um, has was thrown to the wayside, and also my emotional clutter and my self-care. Some parts of my daily ritual were also pushed to the side and neglected because I'm like, I got to get this thing done. I got to do this thing. I got to work on it. I got to stay focused. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be wonderful. No time for me, only time for what's outside of me. And though on one hand, it's great that we work that way, Rini, and anybody else who can relate to this message, on one hand, though, it's great that we work that way because it does help us to be very productive and very productive in the sense that when we're working, we are working awesomely. We are not distracted, we're focused, we do a great job, we're really detailed, but we get the work done, right? That's the positive side of this. The potentially negative side of this is at what cost, right? We are performing that excellently, we're performing that well, we are productive when we work, but then at what cost, right? Then at the cost of neglecting our own personal care, not being productive within our own self-care regimen. So the one can be true that it is great that we work that well that way. What is also true at the same time is that we can also be negatively impacting our self-care and our personal habits and our daily individualized um, regimens and rituals, which is not good long term if we do that. So I think the warning call for us is that not necessarily that we have to stop working in spurts of energy like this, because I know that's my MO. But, Rini, maybe if we, this is a lesson for me too, maybe if we commit less to some projects, maybe we only, cap our projects at only working at 2 or 3 projects at a time versus 5, like I did the other week. Um, Also, maybe it's scheduling into our calendar ways that we can remind ourselves, did I do this today that contributed towards my self care? Did I schedule, meditation time? Did I schedule um, a bath day? Did I schedule a break to go walk around, the neighborhood? Did I schedule a stretch break, in between my 5 hours of being behind the computer? So little ways that we can incorporate self-care and um, individualized time, I think is going to be a way that we long term can solve this issue of when we work, we go hard. Because I don't think it's completely realistic that if that's the way we work best, that's going to change completely or drastically. I think that if we accept that's the way we are and we embrace it and we love on it and that we see it as a positive gift that we have, at the same time, we can also sprinkle in little bits of um, more positive, supportive actions around that kind of work style. Like I said, by um, scheduling breaks um, and building in required tasks and to dos that include self care. Okay. And the reason I'm spending so much time on the solution piece here and the word of caution for us is because I think when we hear this advice, sometimes we want to go, okay, I'm just going to change it completely. I'm going to be a different person. I'm not going to work that way anymore. And the reality is, if that is our tendency, and it actually can be a positive tendency for the most part, then let's not do away with the tendency. Let's embrace it. Let's understand it. Let's know it. And then let's tweak that tendency a little bit by adding more positive and productive ways to support it. So let's still be excellent. Let's still go hard when we work. Let's still um, put this passion and energy behind what we do. Let's still do those things, and at the same time, what can also exist is we can incorporate great self-care rituals to support us. Um, Rini, thank you for that question because I think, or that intention, um, because I think this is a good lesson for all of us right now, especially at a time like this when we're all, um, for the most part, quarantined or asked to be home a lot. And when we're home a lot, sometimes we can develop habits that aren't conducive to our self care. And sometimes we get tired of being so regimented or so. Or having rituals where it's like nobody's holding us to it, right? We're the only ones who know if we've exercised today or not. We're the only ones who know if we've eaten healthy food or not. We're the only ones who know if we've brushed our teeth or washed our hair or not. I mean, unless of course you're like on a video like this and someone notices you haven't brushed your hair, but nobody's holding you to those types of habits. So it's important that we pay attention to these things and that we understand that we're the ones who need to hold ourselves to these habits and rituals. And the more we do positive things that help us to feel better and to be well, to eat well, to be physically active and to take care of ourselves, I think the more we can actually be our best and be more optimal to help others, right? So it'll make us even more productive and even more awesome at our work. So, anyway, you are most welcome for that reading. Today's going to be a lot shorter just because I do have things scheduled after um, Shin Kicking Mondays today. But Rini, since you did ask, I am going to try to do a past life reading for you as well because um, I'm definitely seeing and feeling more stuff that wants to come through. And a lot of times when I am in flow like this, when I'm channeling, sometimes it just comes so fast. It's really hard for me to ignore it. And when I keep hearing certain things over and over, if I keep seeing messages over and over, that is a sign for me that I need to say it. That is a sign for me that I need to share it, and that I shouldn't second guess it or suppress myself. Okay, so I'm gonna pause for a moment here, but I was getting more stuff coming through, and I do believe it's for you. And I do believe there is a past life reading that is showing itself to me, obviously, because we just talked about it a few minutes ago. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna let those messages come through. I always love doing these because it's so interesting to me. I don't know enough. I'm not a history buff, so I don't know enough about history to speak intelligently to certain times and what was happening during those times. But Rini, I see you in the wild, wild west. Um, I don't know if you remember back in those in the 80s when we had those glamour shots studios where you could, I think it was glamour shots, maybe there was a different name for it, but there were those photography studios at the mall where you could go and dress up in the that wild wild west type of clothing, kind of like those they look kind of more a little vintage sort of. I'm pretty sure there's a name for the kind of outfits, but the very long, roughly dresses, the big hats, and the the pointy boots, like the pointy women cowboy boots. Yeah, I see you responding. I see you in the wild, wild west, and you are a female. It's very interesting because I'm seeing like badass badass lady, where it's like she's a gunslugger. I don't know if that's even a right term. I think it sounds like the right term to me. She Nobody can mess with her, and there are some times when we look back in the past where we're like, women were disempowered, women were meek, women were subservient and whatnot. And the energy I'm getting around you during this time frame is definitely not that. You took care of yourself. Um, it was kind of like that. I don't need no man. I don't need no man, right, to take care of me. I'm getting that kind of energy around this person, and she is fiery and um, I keep saying badass because it's like nobody wanted to mess with her. People were scared of her. Not scared in the sense that she did anything wrong, but she was definitely someone who fought for what she believed in. She stood up for what she believed in. It was kind of like a warrior of justice, right? So if she saw something happening that she didn't believe in, and it was a misjustice, right? She would stand up and let people know. She's the kind of person who would show up in a saloon with her gun and threaten people and never hurt them, but threaten them, and even men, and they were scared enough about her that they wouldn't want to mess with her. You know, she was such a tough cookie. She could take care of herself. It's so interesting. What I love about this is that there's this strength in her. There is this air of I don't care if I go down today, but I'm going to go down with a fight, right? So I love the energy around that because it's very empowering. It's very feminist. And I use that in the sense of not being afraid to really own that feminine energy, but to be proud of it and then to also feel strength from it and to feel empowered to kind of lead that charge of other women who maybe are afraid to speak up and let themselves be seen, let themselves be known, let themselves be heard, and to be taken seriously. And this woman, she's just absolutely a pioneer of, you know, for her time. And so to me, it seems like she might be misplaced because it's like, wow, how were you already doing that back in the Wild Wild West days, right? Um, but she had that in her. Um, you know, I see her like, you know, she has a horse. I see that she is not doing anything illegal, definitely not doing anything illegal. But again, kind of like if she's in front of her home and she's got her horses, she's got this ranch, she's got her guns, and people are trying to come to her house and do things to her, she will protect her domain, she'll protect her home, she'll protect her horses. I don't see that she has a family, I don't see that she was married, I don't see that she has kids, but I do see that she took care of people in the community. She took people in. She gave them jobs on the ranch. She supported anybody who was being treated poorly, kind of like taking her in, like an auntie or like a like the neighborhood, you know, auntie, the neighborhood um, granny. And she wasn't even that old either. I mean, I'm talking probably maybe late 30s, mid 40s by this time in this image. And she just took people in and took care of them because she didn't want anybody to feel left out. She didn't want anybody to feel like they had none. And it's almost as if she grew up maybe not necessarily like an orphan, but she grew up very independent from a young age. And so she was raised to believe that she could make a difference and help support other people to believe that they're not alone and that they are wanted. And so she took in kind of like the misfits of society, who were good people, but who just needed that extra resource or that extra push to believe in themselves. But man, what a badass she was. So the Wild Wild West, Rainey. Um, I hope this makes sense to you. I'm seeing that you said that feels like the energy of who you are now, and that's fantastic. And I'm hoping that it does make sense. I don't know if you ever, you know, go back and look at your timeline or go back and look at your ancestors, or if you've ever had dreams or if you ever had anything that ever happened to you that made you think about that time. Yeah, I'm just curious to see if any of that resonates with you as well, if any of this makes sense, if you've also had any of this maybe coming to you in bits and pieces of messages over the years or decades. And I'm curious to see what you make of it. But I love that. I think this is such a beautiful message. Back to that empowering piece from the group channeling today about it's okay. You're okay, right? We're gonna be okay. And if we're not, we've got the tools and the experience and the resources now to work through it. So we've got to confront that thing that we're afraid of. We've got to stop hiding from it, and we've got to clean out, right? It goes back to, you know, Rini's reading about cleaning out and decluttering so that we allow ourselves to emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally handle whatever it is that's coming our way, especially now during these difficult times. And obviously, too, I'm not an astrologer, but if you do somewhat understand astrology, the Mercury's going into retrograde uh, later next week. And so you are going to potentially experience some things energetically in the world where you might feel like you're a little off, or you have a little brain fog, or communications are not there. You might, get an argument. You might feel irritable. Your appliance might break down. Things like that tend to happen around Mercury retrograde. And I don't say these things to scare us. I don't say these things to make us feel like we're doomed. But if anything, it's about preparing yourself for that time, because if that potentially could happen to all of us in the world, and the energies of the world, we have to kind of flow with it and move with it and adapt with it. So prepare yourself for that by being proactive, by planning ahead, by making sure we don't procrastinate. Clean right away if we need to. Don't let the clutter pick up, right? Stay organized. Continue to keep doing things and not neglecting yourself, not neglecting your family, not neglecting your work, not neglecting your self care rituals. We need to stay on top of things. We need to prepare ahead. We need to allow room in our lives and in our schedule for flexibility in case un foreseen circumstances do occur in our lives, right? Things that we can't help. The only way we really can control it is if we allow that room for flexibility to handle something if something does arise that we don't have control over, right? So we can control the flexibility that we create in our lives and in our schedules to be able to handle things that are unforeseen. That, in general, is what we can control. But we can't control when bad shit happens, and when things that we had no idea was going to happen is going to happen, right? But again, we can also control how we respond to it. We can control how we take care of ourselves, and we can control how we on a day-to-day basis have these rituals and routines that help really support us to stay well and to be in our best optimal health in order to tackle the things that are going to come our way. Okay. So I think our lesson for today, outside of it's okay, you're okay, is let's stay proactive. Let's continue to prepare. Let's continue to plan. Let's continue to stay organized. And let's not neglect ourselves and our care rituals. And I think in general, as things start to happen that may be falling around or crumbling around us, we are much more prepared and equipped to handle it, okay, than maybe someone who hadn't prepared or hadn't planned ahead. Okay, so whatever you're sitting on, stop sitting on it. Whatever you're procrastinating on, get on it right away. Whatever you're neglecting, start paying attention to it. Whatever you should be doing and you're not doing, start doing one little thing at a time, hour by hour, day by day. Okay? These are the best words of advice I can give you this week to hold us, to hold it together, to hold us through this, what could be a challenging time up ahead of us. But we got it. It's okay, and you're okay. All right, let's just remember that. Anyway, I got to run, so thank you for joining us today. If you were able to join us live here, thank you for the question, Rini. And if you're here on the replay, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week. Take care, guys.